Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Commodity TV and a new edition of our online interview series. We want to talk to Michael Hudson, the CEO of Mawson Gold, this morning here. Hi, and good morning to Australia. How are you?
Good afternoon from Australia, Jochen.
Good afternoon. Sorry, good morning from my side. Fantastic. So things are going well, and I can imagine that you have a big smile on your face because you just released on 23rd August, you released a very good summary of your successful drilling at Rajapalot in Finland. And then like 3 days later, it was, I think, on the 26th, you announced already over 1 million ounces of gold equivalent at Rajapalot in a resource. And I think what is really, really rare and fantastic is that the gold ounces are significantly up, but the gold grade is also up 19%. So well done, I would say, Michael.
Thank you, Jochen. Absolutely. It was a key milestone. It was an aim that we talked about for this drill program. And the thing that did surprise us was just how robust this resource is at various cutoff grades, and you can see our gold grade there has gone up 19% and contained gold up 47%. So that's reflective of a very strong geological understanding. So it's very, geologists are a misunderstood bunch of scientists at times, but that's where they can really start to create value when you can understand the controls in any mineralization, and then you can start to target the controls on the high grade, and then that basically comes down to one single number, and that's a higher gold grade at the end of the day. And now this is becoming a significant resource. There's not many million ounce resources named annually. I think you can count them on one hand or a little more, two hands and a little more, globally every year. So this is a significant resource, significant for Finland and significant for Europe.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. And also I saw with your grade increase, does that mean that you were maybe missing some ounces? Because I had the feeling maybe it's 1.2, 1.3 million ounces, not like 1,041,000, which is fantastic, no doubt at all. But is that like a function of the much higher grade that, let's say, maybe some more ounces in the ground were not recorded?
Well, that what they say about statistics, lies, and damn statistics, it could be applied in the resource world, I think, too, Jochen, because you can play it many different ways, with the resource, and certainly what we didn't want to do was increase the resource and drop the grade, because that's easy to do, and you'll see that done quite a lot in the business where resources get bigger by dropping the grade. But this is fundamentally not the case here. So absolutely, we need to demonstrate when we put a resource together that we have signs for eventual economic extraction or reasonable prospects for economic extraction. So we have to put some basic economic criteria to the resource, and we wanted a resource that, when we go into our economic studies, will be very robust. So we chose to put together a resource that had a higher grade. Absolutely, any resource could be lower grade and more ounces, but that's not what we chose to do here. And one other key point is this is going to get a lot bigger. This is an interim resource upgrade. So we've searched something like 5 to 10% of our property here at surface. So there's something like 90% of that host horizon that snakes across our countryside that we haven't even put a drill hole into. Each resource, there's a number of different bodies, 8 different bodies. Each one of them remains open at depth, including some of the best holes. South Palokas delivered very well for us this year. That's one of the prospects, and the best hole in that prospect itself is the last hole at depth. So there's no stopping this. It will get a lot bigger.
Fantastic. I also saw that you have 4,800 tons of cobalt. So one might think, 4,800 tons, that's not that much. But can you put this a little bit in a perspective for us?
Well, it's the 7th largest cobalt resource in Europe today. Again, it's going to get a lot bigger, but it's a strategic and critical resource for Europe and for Finland. And as you and I have spoken about, not only Europe, but Finland within Europe wants to be a major supplier to the battery industry within Europe and the globe. So they want to control those raw materials right through to building those battery plants and the value-added position that comes after that. Now, Finland produces a significant amount of the world's refined cobalt, but the vast majority of that comes from DRC. And we know all around the ethical and sustainable nature of a lot of that cobalt, right? That's not necessarily all the way that everyone would feel happy holding child laboured source lithium-ion batteries in their iPhone, right? Carrying that around. But what Mawson can do and other players within Europe is supply ethically sourced and sustainable battery metals into the European market. And that's what the benefit of having this byproduct. It's only about 10% in situ value of our project. It is a gold project, but it's still a very significant project for Europe. And so they're very valuable tons of cobalt that will hopefully go into the lithium-ion batteries of electric cars and mobile phones, etc., in Europe in the coming years.
Okay, super. So that would be also a nice source of income of for let's say a byproduct strategy, of course.
Absolutely.
Super. You said also that you have like now 8 prospects, and I think on page 2 of your press release, we have them all named here with cutoff grades, with tons, gold, cobalt, etc. So what I found really interesting is that you have always like a pit and an underground. So is that like to have a look on the economic side already a little bit, that you say, oh yes, okay, we can start like with open pit, but then we go directly underground with that, and we can process that all in the central plant, for example?
Yeah, well, this is certainly not an economic study, but as I mentioned before, when you put a resource together according to Canadian Institute of Mining, CIM, and we need to do that under 43-101, follow their guidelines. Or if you're doing it in Australia under JORC, which everyone's heard of more, I think, the JORC code, the definition is that you must have reasonable prospects for economic extraction. So it's no good putting a resource together that you can't mine as an open pit, but it's too low grade to mine underground, but you still have it as a resource. So your resource, if it goes to depth, must carry enough grade. Now, what we've got is 3 grams gold equivalent, which is 2.5 grams gold plus cobalt. That makes it 3 grams. That's a tier 1 deposit from surface. There's not many deposits going around that are 3 grams from surface. Now, that is obviously open pittable, but that is also underground grade material as well. So what we modeled was based on not trying to just maximize the lowest cutoff possible, which would be making big open pits. We said, what's the most economic likely outcome here? And the most likely outcome is that we'd put small pits going underground, which is what Kittila was up the road. The largest gold mine in Europe was mined the same way. But what's also really interesting, and was a big part of this resource that fell out for us and was a surprise, is that this could sustain going underground from day one also. So you could just leave a 20-metre crown pillar and go underground. And there's various reasons why that's a good thing. It may make permitting a lot simpler. We can go underground with an exploration decline, you know, in the next year or 2 years, where we can drill these things out and have all year-round access, and then that exploration decline becomes the early stages in an underground mine. So you'd already put in your pre-mine development, if you like. So there's things like that to think about that certainly haven't ever any decisions have been made about, but we're thinking along those lines.
Okay, super. I saw one thing which really got my interest too, because I never thought it before. Under, I think it's item 5 in your press release, a gold top cut of 50 grams gold per ton was used for the gold domains. A cobalt top cut was not applied. Can you say that in some easy words what that means?
Well, you've got a little bit of geostatistician built into you by looking and finding the detail there. So what it is basically a conservative estimate. So if any assay went above 50 grams, so say you had something that went 89 grams, we cut that back to 50 grams. So we reduced the assay. And that's because very high grade assays have the ability to skew the data. And it's called a nugget effect. So every gold deposit has some sort of nugget effect where you get very high spiky grades, and you basically want to remove that spikiness with a conservative estimate, and you bring it down to a level where you think you can get below that nuggety level or that spikiness. And that's what happened there. Now with the cobalt, that wasn't needed because it's a much more consistent mineralization. It doesn't have the highs and the lows. It's much more consistent. So there's none of that spikiness to the cobalt grade. So we didn't need to apply that top cut to the cobalt.
Okay, super. So now you have already a fantastic resource here, but how does metallurgy look? Because the best resource is worth nothing if you don't get it out economically.
Absolutely, and what we've got here is, and I think you already know, and maybe why you've asked the question, but gold is free milling gold. So it will be very simple, cheap, and environmentally amenable to processing. So we'll get 25, so far the test work shows we'll get 25 to 50% in gravity, and then the remainder in cyanide leach. Also, some work that we've done suggests that flotation alone, gold floats, and you can float the gold off, and we're getting very high grade concentrates and plus 90% gold recoveries just through flotation. But we're getting high 90s through that gravity cyanide. So it's not a refractory gold, and it has some very amenable characteristics. The cobalt, not as simple, but certainly very liberatable, if that's a term. So it's in minerals that we can separate, and we need to have at least some flotation, gravity flotation and mag separation to get those cobalt minerals. But the work we've done has demonstrated the cobalt too is not refractory, and it's in a few different mineral species that behave differently, but really important to demonstrate the strategic nature of this project by having that byproduct of cobalt. So we'll work hard to make sure that comes out along with the easy gold.
Okay, super. And I think you face also very good support from the Finland government, from the Battery Association, right? Because I could imagine they really want your cobalt for the future.
It's attracted millions of dollars of public funding from publicly funded entities in Finland to research the geometallurgy and the cobalt extraction. So absolutely, there's a big need for homegrown cobalt, and this project can help supply that homegrown cobalt, and that's been recognized millions of different ways.
Okay, super. So how large do you think this resource has to grow until you say, okay, here we have to stop, now we start to develop it?
Well, we've already started down the process of early stage permitting. So we have already started an EIA, an environmental impact assessment. That started 6 months ago. So that's in the socialization with all stakeholders. And we've already started through the support of the local municipalities and Regional Development Council, the land use rezoning for the project as well. In the regional land use plan, it is already designated a mining area, but this will really clean it up for the future with a rezoning across a number of different plans and land use plans. So those things take a long time. We want those to start earlier. So that's going on in the background. Clearly, this is going to get a lot bigger, like I said, and we need to focus on making it bigger while de-risking it with permitting, engineering, and ESG work continuing and becoming more focused. You'll see a lot more engineering experience come into the company already. We have one of the better mining engineers in Finland, a very globally experienced mining engineer who's come and sat on the board of our local company up there. He was working with Anglo-American Sakati project, and now he's come across and doing that work for us. And there'll be a few surprises in the next few months on additional appointments too. So just demonstrating the slight pivot of the project.
Okay, super. So Finland looks terrific, I would say, really outstanding. Again, congratulations what you guys have achieved. Can you give us shortly at the end of the interview here a brief update? What's going on in Australia?
Well, we haven't put much information over the last few months around Australia because we've been really focused on Finland. So we've had 20 kilometres of Finland, but we haven't stopped drilling. In Australia, we've had one rig continuously working. We've had field crews out there taking thousands of samples. We've got geophysical results to announce very shortly. We're very excited about what's happening at Sunday Creek. That is where the drill rig is continuing to operate. And you'll see more information over the next month or so flow from the Australian assets as we've got this huge milestone on our flagship project now done. So Australia is continuing on. We've talked about aspirationally seeing the opportunity to separate the Australian assets from the Finnish asset and look at listing the Australian assets on the ASX. We're still going down that path, talking with both exchanges, the TSX and ASX, to make sure that's something we can do. But we see that Australia is lost within the larger Mawson organisation now that we've got projects of merit and one of the best discoveries to come out of Victoria over the last few years. So stay tuned for more information there as well.
Fantastic. Last question. How much money is in the bank? Are you financed for the next, let's say, 12 to 18 months?
Not financed for 12 or 18 months unless we don't want to do a lot of work. So we've got $5 million in the bank, Canadian, which is more than enough to keep Australia ticking over, more than enough to do earlier stage work, but not enough to do a huge drill program again in the winter next year in Finland. So we need to work up a plan just how to fund the company appropriately with that potential Australian assets potentially going to another home that's owned by Mawson, and that would mean different funding for that. So we've got some time to work through that, but not a lot of time. You know, we're getting close to the end of the year already, it seems. But you'll see some news on that front too over the next 4 or 5 months.
Super, perfect. Michael, thank you very much for this great short-long update, I would say. And it's always interesting to speak with you. And again, congratulations on that fantastic resource and high quality of the resource you have in Finland. And of course, we are looking really forward to a lot of results from Australia then.
Thanks, Jochen. Always a pleasure.
Super. Thank you very much. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that was Michael Hudson, the CEO of Mawson Gold. And you heard it, a fantastic resource they just brought out on Friday last week. And they are doing extremely well. Over 1 million ounce gold equivalent they found with fantastic grades. The grades are 19% higher. The gold ounces are plus 47% in Finland at the Rajapalot project here. But also Australia, it looks like that a lot is going on here, and we look forward to some very good news. So stay tuned, check out the company. Thanks for watching us, and bye-bye from Switzerland.